The galaxy had rules. Not laws written in treaties or enforced by councils, but truths carved into the bones of history. Civilizations that ignored them didn't survive long enough to pass them on. Don't awaken what sleeps. Don't trespass into silence. And above all, don't attack a species you don't understand. The Varelian Dominion had never cared for rules. They were the storm others whispered about. A war machine refined over centuries, engineered for conquest and perfected through annihilation. Their fleets didn't negotiate. They didn't hesitate. They erased. System after system had fallen to them, some after resistance, most without it. The Dominion didn't just win wars. They made them irrelevant. So when their deep-range scouts returned with data about a small, isolated world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, it barely registered as a challenge. Primitive, Commander Threx said, leaning back in his command throne as Earth rotated on the central holoscreen. Blue, green, alive, fragile, single-planet species, fragmented political structure, no unified military command. His officers murmured in agreement. Energy output? Threx asked. Below threshold for interstellar combat capability. Fleet presence? None detected. A faint smile crept across his sharp features. Defenses? Minimal orbital infrastructure. Civilian-grade satellites. No planetary shield. The pause. Permission to initiate first contact protocol? Threx chuckled softly. We are initiating first contact. The Dominion fleet arrived without warning. Massive warships tore through the void, warping into Earth's orbit like silent titans. Their shadows swallowed continents. Their weapons powered up in perfect synchronization. Down below, humanity looked up. And for a moment, the entire world held its breath. Commence strike, Threx ordered. No speech. No warning. No negotiation. Just fire. The first wave hit orbital targets. Satellites disintegrated in seconds. Communications arrays burned out. Defense grids, what little existed, collapsed before they could react. The second wave followed immediately. Precision strikes. Power plants. Military bases. Strategic infrastructure. Cities weren't targeted directly. Not yet. The Dominion preferred control before extermination. Within minutes, Earth went dark. Commander Threx watched the chaos unfold with detached satisfaction. This is what happens when lesser species mistake existence for strength, he said. Below, lights flickered out across continents. Networks collapsed. Governments scrambled. It was textbook conquest. Efficient. Predictable. And then, it stopped being predictable. Commander, one of the tactical officers said, hesitation creeping into his voice. Threx didn't look away from the display. Report. We are not receiving surrender signals. Of course not, Threx replied calmly. They're disorganized. Sir, we're not receiving any signals. That made him pause. Clarify. Communications traffic has dropped to near zero. No distress calls. No emergency broadcasts. Nothing. Threx frowned slightly. That's impossible. Even the most primitive species panicked. They cried. They begged. They screamed into the void hoping someone, anyone, would answer. Silence wasn't natural. Scan for life signs, he ordered. Seconds passed. Billions confirmed alive. Threx's eyes narrowed. Where? Underground, sir. Large-scale subterranean networks activating across multiple continents. Another pause. Military signatures increasing. Something shifted. Subtle, but unmistakable. On the holoscreen, Earth no longer looked like a dying world. It looked like something waking up. Zoom in, Threx said. The image focused on a region once marked as a major population center. Now dark. Still, but beneath the surface, movement. Heat signatures. Energy spikes. Patterns forming too fast to track. What are they doing? One officer whispered. No one answered. Because no one knew. A signal appeared. Weak at first. Then growing stronger. Not chaotic. Not fragmented. Structured. Deliberate. Trace it, Threx snapped. It's everywhere, the officer replied. Global origin. Simultaneous broadcast. Put it on screen. The bridge fell silent as the signal decoded. Not visuals. Not data streams. Just audio. A single voice. Human. Steady. You shouldn't have come here. The message repeated. Twice. Then it stopped. No follow-up. No threat. No negotiation. Just that one sentence. The bridge erupted in quiet murmurs. Threx didn't join them. He stared at the screen, expression unreadable. He smiled. Finally, he said. His officers looked at him, uncertain. Resistance, Threx continued, standing from his throne. Good. That means they'll fight. He turned to the command deck. Prepare ground assault divisions. I want control of the surface within one rotation. Yes, Commander. And increase orbital pressure. Target secondary infrastructure. Yes, Commander. Orders flowed. Systems adjusted. Weapons recalibrated. The Dominion moved forward as it always had. Certain. Unstoppable. Victorious. But as Threx looked back at the image of Earth, that message lingered. Not as a warning, but as something else. A statement. And for the first time, though he would never admit it, Commander Threx felt something unfamiliar. Not doubt. Not fear. But the faintest whisper of a question. Why weren't they afraid? Far below. Beneath the oceans. Beneath the mountains. Beneath the ruins of burning cities. Doors opened. Lights flickered to life. Machines, untouched for decades, began to hum. And humanity, silent until now, prepared to answer. The Dominion thought they had started a war. They hadn't. Earth did not burn. Not the way other worlds did. Commander Threx had seen hundreds of invasions. The pattern was always the same. First, then panic. Then collapse. Civilizations fractured under pressure. Governments fell apart. Populations scattered, desperate to survive. Resistance, when it came, was chaotic and predictable. Easy to crush. Earth didn't follow the pattern. Status report, Threx demanded. Primary strikes successful, the tactical officer replied. Orbital infrastructure eliminated. Surface-level military capacity reduced by 80%. And the population? The pause. Stable, sir. Threx turned slowly. Define stable. They're not evacuating in large numbers. No mass migrations. No visible riots or breakdown of order. That made no sense. What about communications? Minimal. Most networks are offline. Jammed? No, sir. Another pause. They shut them down themselves. The bridge fell silent. Why would they do that? One officer muttered. Threx didn't answer. Because for the first time, he didn't know. Expand scans, he ordered. Full spectrum analysis. I want to know what they're hiding. The sensors reached deeper this time. Past the burning surface. Past the ruined cities. Into the crust of the planet itself. And that's when they saw it. At first, it looked like noise. Anomalies. Heat signatures scattered across continents. The patterns aligned. Commander, the sensor officer whispered. These structures, they're massive. How massive? Planet-wide, sir. The holoscreen shifted. Earth's surface faded, replaced by a web. A vast, interconnected network stretching beneath every major landmass. Tunnels. Chambers. Installations. Some ancient. Some newly activated. All hidden. Threx stepped closer to the display. This was not built recently. No, sir, the officer said quietly. Some of these structures are decades old. Others, centuries. The realization hit like a silence. They planned for this, Threx said. Not panic. Not desperation. Preparation. Before he could speak again, an alarm cut through the bridge. Commander, we've lost contact with Patrol Wing 7. Threx turned sharply. Lost. No debris. No distress signal. They just disappeared. That's impossible, another officer snapped. Nothing gets past our sensors. Scan the area, Threx ordered. The fleet adjusted formation. Sensors swept the void. Every frequency. Every spectrum. Nothing. No enemy ships. No energy weapons. No anomalies. Re-establish contact, Threx said, voice tightening. Attempting no response. Another alarm. Commander, Patrol Wing 12 is gone. What do you mean gone? Threx demanded. Same as before, no explosion, no signal, just gone. A ripple of unease spread across the bridge. This is a trick, one officer said quickly. Some kind of cloaking technology. Impossible, another replied. Not at this level. Threx raised a hand. Silence. Focus, he said. We are the Dominion. We do not lose ships to ghosts. But even as he spoke, another ship vanished. Right in front of them. One moment it was there. A massive war cruiser, shields active, weapons ready. Nothing. Gone. No flash. No debris. No trace. For the first time in Dominion history, the bridge crew didn't know what they were looking at. Commander, the sensor officer whispered. Threx didn't respond. He was staring at the empty space where a warship had been. Run it again, he said. We are, sir. There's nothing. It's like the ship never existed. That's when the systems flickered. Lights dimmed. Displays glitched. What's happening? Someone shouted. Unknown intrusion, the systems officer yelled. Something's inside our network. Shut it down. I'm trying, it's bypassing everything. Every screen on the bridge went black. They all lit up at once. Not with Dominion data. Not with tactical feeds. With a single message. White text. On a black field. 3 words. We are awake. The air on the bridge felt different. Heavier. Colder. No one spoke. No one moved. Threx stepped forward slowly. Trace the signal. Trying, the officer said, hands shaking slightly. It's not coming from outside. The pause. It's already inside our systems. Silence. The message vanished. Systems rebooted. Displays returned. Controls responded. But something had changed. The fleet was no longer calm. No longer precise. There was hesitation now. Commander, one of the younger officers said quietly. Threx turned. This isn't normal. It wasn't. Threx looked back at Earth. At the silent planet beneath them. At the hidden network stretching beneath its surface. At the ships that had vanished without a trace. At the message that had appeared inside his own systems. And for the first time, the thought formed clearly. Not a whisper. Not a question. A realization. They had not attacked a weak species. They had triggered something. Something that had been waiting. Watching. Preparing. Far below. Deep beneath stone and steel. A human commander stood in a dimly lit control room. Screens filled with Dominion fleet positions. Red markers. Dozens of them. One by one. They flickered out. Phase 1 complete, someone said. The commander nodded. Good, he replied calmly. Let them look for us. A faint smile touched his lips. They won't find us. In orbit. Another Dominion ship vanished. And this time, no one even tried to explain it. The war had begun. The Dominion did not panic. It adapted. Commander Threx stood at the center of the war room, eyes fixed on the shifting formation of his fleet. Gone was the relaxed confidence. Gone was the assumption of easy victory. There was only calculation. Reform all wings, he ordered. Tight defensive configuration. Overlapping shield grids. No ship operates independently. Yes, Commander. Activate continuous scan sweeps. I want every fluctuation, every anomaly flagged. Yes, Commander. And prepare full planetary suppression. The words hung in the air. Some of the officers hesitated. Not because they disagreed, but because they understood. This was escalation. Not conquest anymore. Extermination. They're forcing our hand, Threx said coldly, sensing their hesitation. We end this before it spreads. Orders were executed. The Dominion fleet shifted into a dense formation above Earth. Massive warships aligned in layered defense patterns, their shields overlapping into a near-impenetrable shell. Energy built. Weapons charged. Commence saturation bombardment. They didn't hold back. The sky burned. Columns of fire lanced down through the atmosphere. Shockwaves rippled across continents. Mountains split. Oceans boiled at their edges. Anything on the surface? Gone. Or so they thought. Commander, the tactical officer said slowly. We are detecting launch signatures. Threx frowned. From where? Below the surface. They saw them. Missiles. Hundreds of them. Launching from hidden silos buried deep beneath rock and steel. From beneath oceans. From mobile platforms concealed in the ruins of cities. They're still operational? An officer whispered. Intercept, Threx snapped. Dominion point defense systems came alive. Laser grids. Interceptor drones. Automated flak bursts. Many of the missiles were destroyed. But not all. The ones that got through. A Dominion destroyer shuddered as a missile punched through its shields, detonating deep within its hull. Another cruiser lost half its propulsion system in a precise strike. These aren't random attacks, the tactical officer said. They're targeting weak points. Threx's jaw tightened. They're studying us. But that wasn't the worst of it. The worst came next. Commander, the systems officer said, voice strained. We're detecting internal breaches. Threx turned sharply. From where? I don't know. Screams echoed through the comm channels. Deck 12 is compromised. They're inside. We didn't detect any entry. Static. Silence. Threx activated internal surveillance. Corridors flickered onto the screen. Metal walls. Flickering lights. Blood. And movement. Too fast. Figures in dark armor moved through the halls. Silent. Efficient. Dominion soldiers fired. The figures closed the distance in seconds. Gone. Leaving bodies behind. What is this? One officer whispered. Threx didn't answer. Because he was watching something impossible. There were no breach signatures, the systems officer said. No docking. No teleportation events. Nothing. Then how are they inside our ships? Another demanded. No one had an answer. On the screen, one of the figures paused, turned slightly, and looked directly at the camera. Human. But not like the ones they had expected. No hesitation. No fear. No confusion. Just focus. Then the feed cut. Commander, the tactical officer said quietly. We've lost 3 more ships. Threx clenched his fists. This is not possible. But it was happening. And it was getting worse. Every minute. Another ship disabled. Another crew silenced. Another section of the fleet compromised. They're not attacking us like a conventional force, the officer said. They're dismantling us. Piece by piece. From the inside. Threx stared at the displays. At the flickering markers of his fleet. At the growing gaps where ships used to be. They're not adapting, he said slowly. The room fell silent. They're not learning as they go, Threx continued. His voice dropped. They already know how to fight us. The realization hit like, they've done this before. A chill spread across the bridge. Against who? Someone asked. No one answered. Because the answer was worse than any question. Threx turned back to the image of Earth. No longer silent. No longer passive. Alive. Active. Watching. They let us come, he said quietly. Not an assumption. Not a theory. The truth. They saw us. They studied us. And they waited. Another alarm cut through the silence. Commander, we've lost contact with the outer perimeter entirely. Threx didn't react. He was still staring at Earth. At the planet that had looked so small. So fragile. So easy. And now, so deadly. They are hunting us, the tactical officer whispered. Threx closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then opened them again. Cold. Focused. Then we stop being prey, he said. He turned to the bridge. All units, prepare for full counter-engagement. Flush them out. Burn everything if you have to. Yes, Commander. Orders surged through the fleet. Weapons powered. Shields reinforced. Formations tightened further. But it was too late. Because the truth had already taken hold. This was no longer an invasion. It was a hunt. And the Dominion, for the first time in its history, was not the hunter. Far below, in a hidden command center, the human commander watched the battle unfold. Dominion ships flickering out. Signals collapsing. Chaos spreading. Phase 2 complete, an operator said. The commander nodded. Good. He looked up at the screen. At the remaining fleet. Begin Phase 3. The pause. A single command. Let them see us. In orbit. For the first time, human ships appeared. Not many, but enough. And the hunt entered its final stage. The Dominion had faced extinction before, but never like this. Commander Threx stood alone in the war chamber. Not because he dismissed his officers, but because they had nothing left to offer. Half the fleet was gone. Not destroyed in glorious battle. Not shattered by overwhelming force. Erased. Ships that had survived dozens of wars vanished without a trace. Command crews, elite soldiers, veteran captains, gone. And the enemy? Still barely visible. Report, Threx said quietly. The remaining officers exchanged uneasy glances. Fleet strength reduced to 43%, one replied. Internal systems compromised across multiple vessels. Boarding incidents ongoing. Enemy fleet? The pause. Minimal. Threx looked up sharply. Minimal. Yes, Commander. We are detecting only a handful of confirmed human warships. Silence. That's impossible, someone muttered. It wasn't just impossible. It was unacceptable. How are they doing this? Threx demanded. No one answered. Because the answer didn't exist in any Dominion doctrine. Access archival records, Threx ordered. Deep level. Restricted clearance. I want anything related to this species. Commander, those archives are. Do it. The system hesitated. Then complied. Ancient data flooded the screens. Fragments. Warnings. Records from civilizations long gone. At first, it was incoherent. Broken translations. Partial logs. Desperate transmissions. Patterns began to form. A recurring designation. Repeated across multiple extinct species. Terrans. Another line. Clearer this time. Do not engage. The room fell silent. More records surfaced. They do not negotiate once provoked. They do not respond to deterrence. They do not stop. Threx felt something cold settle in his chest. Source, he asked. Multiple, the archivist replied. Different civilizations. Different eras. Outcome? The archivist hesitated. Then spoke. None survived long enough to provide full records. Silence. Not the kind born of confusion. The kind born of understanding. They erased the evidence, one officer whispered. No, Threx said slowly. His voice was different now. They became the evidence. He stepped closer to the screen. To the fragmented histories. To the warnings buried beneath centuries of dust. They're not a new threat, he continued. They're an old one. A realization took hold. Terrifying. Humanity wasn't weak. It had been contained. Hidden at the edge of the galaxy. Ignored. Avoided. Not because it lacked power, but because others had learned. And stayed away. We were never meant to find them, Threx said. Another officer shook his head. No, Commander. His voice trembled. They were never meant to be provoked. An alarm cut through the silence. Commander. Multiple system overrides across the fleet. What now? Threx snapped. They're inside our command network again. Screens flickered. Controls lagged. Weapons cycled without input. And then, every display changed. Not static. Not chaos. Order. A single transmission. Visual. A human stood on the screen. No insignia. No rank displayed. Just a presence. Unshaken. Unstoppable. You accessed the archives, the human said. His voice was steady, controlled, as if he had expected this moment. You've seen what others left behind. Threx stepped forward. You're manipulating our systems, he said. You're violating every rule, the human interrupted. A faint, humorless smile appeared. You came to our world without warning. A step closer to the screen. You fired first. Another step. You don't get to talk about rules. The bridge was silent. Every officer frozen. Listening. You don't understand what you've done, the human continued. Threx narrowed his eyes. Then explain it. The human studied him for a moment. You didn't start a war. The pause. You ended your own. The words hit harder than any weapon. Impossible, Threx said. The human shook his head. No. A flicker of something passed behind his eyes. Not anger. Not hatred. Certainty. You saw a quiet world, he said. A divided species. No visible defenses. Another pause. And you thought that meant we were weak. Threx didn't respond. Because that's exactly what he had thought. We are not weak, the human said. His voice dropped. We are restrained. The transmission ended. Just like that. No threats. No demands. No negotiation. Threx stood there. Still. The meaning settled in. Not slowly. All at once. Every vanished ship. Every silent system. Every impossible attack. It all fit. They weren't fighting chaos. They were facing control. Precision. Preparation on a scale they had never imagined. We were wrong, one officer whispered. Threx closed his eyes. For a brief moment, he allowed the truth to surface. He opened them again, and gave the only order left. All remaining forces. His voice was steady, but hollow. Prepare for final engagement. Far below, in the depths of Earth, the human commander watched the transmission end. They understand now, one of his officers said. The commander nodded. Too late, he replied. He turned to the display, to the remnants of the Dominion fleet, and gave the final command. End it. The last phase began, and for the Dominion, there would be no escape. There was no formation left to hold. The Dominion fleet, once a flawless instrument of conquest, was broken, scattered, bleeding, dying. Commander Threx stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the final moments unfold across the shattered battlefield. Where there had once been hundreds of warships, now there were fragments, burning hulls drifting through orbit, silent wreckage tumbling into Earth's gravity well, faint signals blinking out one by one. Remaining combat vessels? Threx asked quietly. 17, the tactical officer replied. 17. Out of a fleet that had conquered entire sectors. Threx nodded slowly. Signal all units, he said. Converge on my position. If they were going to fall, they would fall together. The last Dominion ships formed a loose perimeter around the flagship. Damaged. Outnumbered. Waiting. And then, they saw them. Human ships. They didn't arrive with flashes of light or violent distortions. They were simply silent. Sleek black hulls cutting through the void like shadows given form. No visible weapons. No emissions. No wasted movement. How many? Threx asked. The sensor officer swallowed. 5. Silence fell across the bridge. 5 ships, against what remained of the Dominion fleet. That's all, one officer whispered. Threx didn't respond. Because deep down, he understood. It was enough. The human ships moved. Not in formation. Not in predictable patterns. They flowed. Like predators circling wounded prey. Open fire. Threx ordered. The Dominion unleashed everything. Energy beams tore through space. Missiles streaked forward. Point defense systems lit the void like a storm of fire. The human ships didn't dodge. They weren't where the weapons hit. One moment they were there. Then gone. Reappearing in new positions. Closer. Tracking failure. the sensor officer shouted. "We can't lock onto them." "Then fire anyway," another yelled. But it didn't matter. One by one, Dominion ships began to fall. Not with explosions. Not with chaos. With precision. Single strike. And a cruiser went dark. Another. And a destroyer split cleanly in half. No wasted energy. No excess force. Execution. "Commander," the tactical officer said. His voice was breaking now. "We can't win this." Threx didn't answer. He was watching. Learning. Even now. Because that was what the Dominion did. But this time, there was nothing left to learn. The final blow came without warning. The flagship shuddered. Not from an external hit. From within. Internal systems failing. The systems officer cried. "We've lost weapons control, engines offline, shields collapsing." Threx didn't move. He already knew. They were inside. The bridge doors opened. Not forced. Not breached. Opened. Slowly. Silently. Every weapon on the bridge turned toward the entrance. Every soldier ready to fire. But no one pulled the trigger. Because a single figure stepped through. Alone. A human. Dark armor. Unmarked. Unafraid. He walked forward without hesitation. Without urgency. Without fear. As if he had done this before. 1,000 times. "Fire!" one of the officers shouted. No one moved. Not because they disobeyed. But because something deeper. Instinct. Stopped them. The human reached the center of the bridge. Stopped. And looked directly at Threx. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Threx straightened. Even now. Even at the end. He was Dominion. "We can negotiate," he said. The human didn't respond. "We can withdraw," Threx continued. "This conflict can end." A small movement. The human raised his hand. And Threx fell silent. "You had a choice," the human said. His voice was calm. Almost quiet. "You chose to attack." Threx's gaze hardened. "You would have done the same." The human tilted his head slightly. "Maybe." The pause. "But you'll never know." Silence. Heavy. Final. Threx glanced at the displays. His fleet. Gone. His empire. Broken. To people. To. "Why?" he asked. Not in anger. Not in defiance. But in understanding. The human looked at him for a long moment. Then answered. "Because you attacked the Invincible." The words settled like gravity. Unavoidable. Absolute. The lights on the bridge flickered. Systems failed. Air grew cold. The human turned. And walked back toward the door. No hurry. No hesitation. As if the outcome had never been in doubt. The doors closed behind him. Moments later, the flagship went dark. Across the galaxy, the wreckage drifted. A graveyard in orbit. A warning written in silence. No celebrations followed. No declarations of victory. Human ships vanished as quietly as they had appeared. Earth returned to stillness. As if nothing had happened. But something had. A message began to spread. Not broadcast. Not announced. Encoded. Whispered through recovered systems. Discovered in broken data cores. Found in the final logs of a fallen empire. A message for anyone who might one day follow the same path. Let this be remembered. Humanity does not seek war. But we always finish it. And in the deepest archives, where fear becomes history, a final line was added. They attacked the Invincible. And paid in blood.